Good morning to everyone, and a warm welcome to those attending and also to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. Details of the business to be considered today is shown on the agenda, copies of which are available in the room, and it is also accessible underneath the live broadcast via the link. For those present in the room and intending to speak, please note that you will be filmed and any statements you make will be recorded and made public. For those solely observing in the room today, you may wish to know that the camera is angled away from the public gallery where you are sitting. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be audible if your microphone is switched on. Fire alarms. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm does go off, please follow the officers to the fire exits and out of the building to the designated meeting points. For those in the room, please switch off any mobile phones before the meeting starts or put them on silent. Please note that councillors on the committee may use their laptops or tablets during the meeting to view the agenda or paperwork. Declarations of interest. Please ensure that you identify which items you have an interest in, state whether your interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and give the reason that you have an interest. Members need not declare any interest in an item on the agenda where they have already listed such interest on the register of interests. Furthermore, you do not need to declare an interest just because you are, for example, a ward councillor. We will now move on to today's agenda. This is the licensing subcommittee for Friday the 17th of September. We will start off with apologies for absence, please.
No apologies for absence today, Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interests in matters coming before this meeting? Nope. To confirm that all items of business are marked Part 1, is that correct? Mm-hmm. And are there any matters that have been notified in advance or urgent? In which case we will move on to the subsequent part of the agenda, which is the application for a variation of premises licence for Trimex Food and Wine. And we will start off with an introductory from the Regulatory Services / Licensing Officer, Lois King.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, everyone. You have all been provided with the full report bundle, and therefore I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the salient points. The purpose of today's hearing is to consider a contested application for a variation of a premises licence in respect of Trimex Food and Wine, 296 High Street, Harlington, UB3 5DU. The application was submitted by Personal Licence Courses UK on behalf of the premises licence holder, Mr. Harpreet Singh Bhatia. Mr. Leo Sharolambides, barrister from King's Chambers, represents the licence holder today. The application seeks to increase the times for the sale of alcohol by 3 hours until 0200 hours Monday to Sunday. The current licence permits the sale of alcohol until 2300 hours daily. The application also outlines the steps that the applicant proposes to take in order to promote the licensing objectives. One representation has been received from a ward councillor, Councillor Money, and this was submitted on behalf of the Harlington Residents Association regarding a potential for increase in public nuisance. No representations have been received from the Metropolitan Police, the Council's Antisocial Behaviour and Environment Team, or the Licensing Authority as a responsible authority. My understanding is that the premises licence holder has spoken with Councillor Money about the proposal, but that the Residents Association wish to maintain their objection. I have also been given to understand by the licensing agent that as the current premises licence is until 2300 hours, the premises licence holder feels that an extra 3 hours would be beneficial to them in light of their proximity to Heathrow Airport and the airport hotels. I recommend the grant of the variation with appropriate conditions to uphold the licensing objectives as detailed in my report, but this is a decision for the licensing subcommittee, and I would therefore invite the committee to determine this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will go straight to see if there's any questions for the licensing officer. Councillor Gardner, do you have any questions at this point?
Yeah, just one. On the page 7, 7.3, put the agent advised verbally additional steps to be taken, signage, additional staff, and staff asking people congregating outside the premises to leave. That worries me slightly because it's not particularly doable unless you've got a heavy-duty bouncer standing at the door saying, go away. You know, can you explain?
I think that might be a question that might be better addressed to the applicant as to how he is going to do that. I did conduct a visit to take some photographs, and Mr. Batia did mention that his staff, they were going to have extra staff on, and they were going to ask people to move on, but perhaps Mr. Batia might be able to explain a little bit more as to how he intends to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I thought perhaps you could enlarge on what you were told, but that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Davies, do you have any questions? And Councillor Gardner, I think that's a valid question we can pick up in the next part. Okay, in which case we will move on to the licence holder. Thank you very much for that. Any questions? Councillor Gardner.
I'll ask it again. I want to be assured that you have people outside to stop people hanging about outside. And with the greatest respect to yourselves, to actually go out and say, excuse me, would you move out of the way? If somebody's drunk, the chances are they'd probably be quite abusive. So I'm just trying to work out because that's one of the problems that residents are foreseeing. I appreciate the fact that it's like, what ifs. But nevertheless, we need to be able to show the residents that we have taken things like that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Gardner? Councillor Davis.
Just a couple of bits. How many staff have you got employed?
There's a rotor of 4 members of staff, and they're managed by Mr. Moyne. We are also part of a wider group, so we are able to call on experienced staff if we need to, and it's the 4 members of staff that are rotors.
So then 4 members of staff are going to be on from 6 in the morning until 2 in the morning, 7 days a week?
There'll be shifts, so there'll be a maximum.
So if you'll have 2 staff on 7 days a week, if you're having 2 staff on in the evening, how are you going to operate days off for people and stuff like that? Because I would personally say that if your staff are tired, you're going to have more issues in the evening. You guys may become snappy. This may result in other issues down the line.
Yeah, so as well as our 4 regular staff this morning, there are family members who are also co-opted and work with us as and when needed. So just beyond the Tandoori restaurant, which interestingly enough, the market is held by Councillor Money, is another convenience store which operates 2 regular hours. That's operated by us and family members, and so we're able to move staff across the store in the way that sort of family businesses operate in that way. So there are 4 dedicated members of staff, but there's that wider family community that we're able to draw on and work with. So we don't have those issues of what happens if some of us are needed to go to carry, what if there are issues, what if they're on holiday, what if they're tired. There are more than enough trained, experienced members that we can call on who are familiar with the store and the local area in order to manage.
Okay, what's your current footfall in the later evening? Because I see that you're going to go for 2 o'clock on a Sunday evening. Is there really a need for that, considering Heathrow workers, most of them travel by bus, and I would say your nearest bus stop is further down the line, so I couldn't see staff getting off the bus to come to your shop and then continue into Heathrow.
So I remind you of paragraph 17.14 of the licensing
Okay.
and the section 182 guidance. So need is a commercial factor. Our business case is not relevant to licensing objectives. If they fail, they fail. We are a very busy, healthy school with a good standing in the local community. And I hope for your sake that you continue to be a well-run, busy school late into the night. But that really is a matter.
I was just going to point out to the committee that commercial need is not what we look at.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We are going to move on then, and as the representative for the licensing holder has already pointed out, there is no responsible authority here today, which brings us on to other parties. Now, I do believe we have a written statement from one of the ward councillors, so Mr Clark.
Okay, so for the benefit of the committee. No, it's not a written statement. It's a representation. Sorry. So just on the advice of Democratic Services, we're going to read out the representation that was submitted by the ward councillor in the absence of them today. So I'm going to read it chronologically as you've been given it as an email thread. So from the chair of the Harlington Residents Association, my only comment would be I don't think we would want people outside the shop drinking at that time of the morning. Personally, 2 a.m. is way too late, I feel. Providence Court opposite and the long-suffering Providence Lane residents are both very near the shop. I don't know their present opening hours, but I think that's too late in my humble opinion. Councillor Money, who submitted the representation, then goes on to say, the residents feel that this will be detrimental to the local residents. Trimex sits above 2 stories of flats, as well as houses on the High Street, flats opposite on Providence Court, and houses on Providence Lane. There will be no benefit to the local area to extend the hours. As we are close to Heathrow Airport, we do have the potential to attract many persons out of usual hours in any case. Residents also mentioned that this place already attracts a lot of persons drinking and congregating directly outside the shop, and this would exacerbate the situation. Regards.
Thank you for that. I don't think there's anything more we need to say unless anyone's got a comment on that note. In which case, we will move on. Let me go to the councillors first. Have you got any more questions for anybody in the room? Councillor Garland.
Can I just ask one question? It may sound a bit stupid. You say that you have daughters that will help and family members. You won't be having females working late at night, will you? Okay. That was my worry.
Thank you for that question. I don't know, again, how relevant that is because it's not up to us to determine
no,
the
but
staff
it's just for me to worry about.
or the commercial decisions of any applicant. Councillor Davies, do you have any further questions? No, thank you. In which case, I think all that is left to do now is some closing statements. Lois King, have you got any closing statements? No. Do you have any statements you wish to make? Thank you. Yes, one can often become inebriated by the exuberance of one's own verbosity. In which case, if there are no more questions, I would like to thank you all for coming. Thank you. We will now retire to make a decision. That decision notice will be posted to yourselves in the next 5 working days. Equally, you can hang around and at some point in the next period of time, I wouldn't like to put time on it, somewhere between 1 and 3 hours time, we will make a decision. That would be available on YouTube, and a licensing member of the licensing team will call you later on to inform us of the decision. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for your representation. In which case, we close this first part of the meeting. Thank you.